The goal is really to build a platform that can deliver a customer experience across multiple home service brands that is the best out there. It is the five-star experience. We call it a five-star promise. It's to deliver to homeowners an experience that exceeds their expectation every time. And that's not easy. It's a very tall order. You've got hundreds and hundreds of franchisees, thousands and thousands of employees running all these different services, and to have them all believe in the five-star promise is a tall, tall order. But if we get there, and when we get there, we unlock a lot of value for everybody in the entire chain, right? From the homeowner who just wanted to have their house bathroom replaced, to the franchisee who's doing it, to us who are the franchisor. Everyone in the entire food chain will unlock a lot of value. And so that's really the vision.
Welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing. Each episode takes a deep dive into the franchise space and explores how the biggest and best brands handle national branding, franchise development, employee recruitment, and localized marketing on a daily basis. This podcast is brought to you by Netcertive, a localized digital marketing partner for franchise networks. Netcertive's Madeleine talks shop with franchise executives to discuss what's working, what's not, and answers the question, what else can you be doing to excel at the art of franchise marketing?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art of Franchise Marketing. I've got a fun one for you today. We've got Scott, the CEO of 5-Star Franchising. Scott, thanks for coming on this morning.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So Scott, you and I had, chatted briefly the other day, and I was asking you, in terms of number of children, because Scott has 5 and I have 3. I said, what was the most difficult? Like 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. And he said 2 to 3, which made me feel very validated. But 5-Star Franchising, how many brands do you have now, including, ProNexus, which is a supplier as well?
Yeah, it's 7 brands, 6 of which are home service franchise brands.
So what was the hardest, going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3?
Hey, you know what? 0 to 1 is by far the hardest. And I'm sure you can appreciate that. Learning curve is pretty steep, right?
Sure.
And I think that's when you realize how hard it is, and all you invest into learning how to franchise something correctly, and all the ins and outs of dealing with franchisees, leading a team of people that lead franchisees, connecting with your consumer, the end user that's buying your services from franchisees. When you finally figure all that out, it just makes a lot of sense to keep doing it. Yeah. It took me at least a decade. I've been at it now for almost 19 years, but a decade before I've really truly understood the art of franchising. Which I love that name. And so once you get it, it's like, there's no point starting up something different. You got to just keep going at it, and that's why we decided to become a platform.
I love it. Yeah, we like to say in my household that we only hang out with people who, understand the kind of like multi-children or multi-business or multi-role thing, because when you have one, it's chaotic. You're learning it. Like you said, it took you a decade to really get into it. When you've got 2, then it's like, oh, how do I split so everyone has 100% of my time? And then anything over 2, everyone's just unbothered. At this point, you're like, I know the system. I'll get to it. It's always chaos, but it's good chaos. So I love it. Before we talk about 5-Star and, your growth goals and your brands there, tell me, you mentioned a little bit, you've been at it for almost 20 years now. How did you get started in franchising, and then what led you to ultimately the CEO of a very large, franchising umbrella brand?
Yeah, happy to do that. It all began in I think it was the summer of 2003. Is probably the year it started, and really we began. And it came down to being at a friend's wedding, and 2 friends of mine who I'd known since there's 12, 13, 14 childhood friends. We're running a small painting company in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. In fact, I'm up in Canada right now. You can see it in the background. And they'd struggled expanding from Edmonton to Calgary, Saskatoon, Vancouver, other markets like that. Each expansion led to loss of capital, business closed, stolen customers, employees taking your business, all kinds of kind of real challenges. And we're at a friend's wedding and we were talking about this. And as they were talking, I said to them, well, I think we could solve this problem pretty easily. All we had to do is franchise it.
Mm-hmm.
If we franchise it, we kind of get this, we solve the issue of having somebody that's operating a local business that has skin in the game, that actually has ownership. And both of them said, well, that's a brilliant idea. Do you know how to do that? And I think at the time I was 20, I don't know, 20, 29. I was pretty young. And I was working at an accounting firm, not really liking my job, wearing a suit every day, doing the commute thing, and really wishing I could get back to my more entrepreneurial roots. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16 with various small businesses, and always kind of fancied myself more of an entrepreneur than an employee. Mm-hmm. So the dream came alive, and we got to work at it. And really, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to franchise anything. What I did know is my father had worked as a franchise salesperson early in franchising for a concept called Koi Japan. It was a restaurant concept, fast food concept. And I knew he was selling them, and I knew it was working for him. And so I thought, well, that must, it can't be that hard to sell these things. Anyway, we took about a year to develop the FDD, the website, some software. Our software was basically a very sophisticated Excel sheet. That was pretty much it. But the beginnings of all companies are like that. And by 2005, what is pretty interesting with the story is our approach. It's part of our culture. Our approach to the business is very numbers driven. Mm-hmm. It always has been. We're a very analytical crew. Our whole company kind of revolves around figure out what works, and then do more of it. And the numbers don't lie. And so we actually started two companies at the same time. One was called 5-Star Painting, and the other one was called Paintworks. And in 2004 to 2005, we ran those businesses side by side in the same city.
It's
both
twins.
Companies. We had, everything was literally run as if there was two companies side by side. Huh. And we'd buy advertising on back then it was just Yellow Pages. We'd had Paintworks, which we modeled after our closest competitor. I literally took their website and their advertisements and the Yellow Page ads, and I just put the Paintworks logo on it. And I ran that beside 5-Star Painting, which had a little more of a edgy call to action, price-driven approach. 5-star job without the 5-star price, $99 a room. And so you knew right away what you were going to get. And we put tracking phone numbers in all of our advertising. And I would monitor, okay, if I bought a Yellow Page ad for $10,000 a year here, and right beside it was the 5-Star Painting one, which one would get the most phone calls? And 5-Star Painting had about 4-to-1 phone calls over Paintworks. So needless to say, that is why we franchised 5-Star Painting versus Paintworks. It's how we entered the market. And while we were kind of testing the whole concept, this would have been summer of 2005, somebody saw one of my lawn signs, called me up and said, are you guys a franchise? And we had just finished what back then was called the UFOC. And I said, yeah, we are a franchise. He's like, well, I was looking at buying your competitor painting franchise concept. And I decided that I'd like to, I'm interested in your brand and how you're approaching things. And so anyway, we sold him a franchise. He paid the full franchise fee. It was August 2005. And I moved from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, which is, I'm actually just an hour and a half east of that right now, and moved down to Utah to do my MBA at BYU while I was starting the business. And we had an operation in Winnipeg we had started. We had one in Edmonton, Alberta. One of our employees of Edmonton, Alberta bought a franchise in Calgary. We had one of our partners moved down to Las Vegas, and I moved to Salt Lake. So we had 5 locations from, just 1 or 2. And that was really the genesis of the, entering into franchising and doing it with painting. Really fun time, really. The business grew. It became one of the fastest growing companies in Utah for years. And we were selling franchises it was a time where the whole world kind of changed, kind of like what AI is doing to the world right now.
Hmm.
We were so early on in 2004, 2005 with internet advertising and SEO and Google that a really savvy group of guys and women that worked in this business were able to rank high, own keywords, and we were selling between 15 and 25 deals a year. And we never used a broker until 2012 or 13 was, I think, our very first broker sale.
Hmm.
And we could consistently grow the business just off of internet marketing.
Wow.
And so what used to be that whole shift of like the world moving from yellow pages to internet uh, was a boon for us. I mean, five-star
Yeah.
painting just blew up. It was amazing.
And you guys were franchising in both Canada and America at that point, correct?
Yeah, started in Canada, then went to the States. Yep.
Yeah. So you did not, this wasn't like, oh, we got so big, now we're going to expand. We're going to do it both at the same time. Kind of like when you had, your Paintworks and Five Star Painting. So from there,
Yeah.
how did you decide to expand the brands?
Yeah. So in 20, well, for anyone that's been in business for a while, if you lived through 2009, 2010, you get to know that despite being really good at business and running a
Mhm.
great company and running it smoothly and growing it healthily, at some point, external factors can come to play and come to bear on a business that you have no control over. And I think everyone understands that with COVID. Uh,
Yeah.
for painting, COVID was great,
Yeah.
but COVID was not great for maid services,
Hmm.
right? And you know that, I think, probably more better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And so sometimes things happen. And so having lived through 2009 and 10 and experiencing something that was almost existential
Hmm.
risk, um, it really formed in my mind this, maybe we shouldn't bet it all on black every day we wake up.
Yeah.
And so in 2015, we ended up selling five-star painting to Neighborly.
Hmm.
Now, what's important to note is the sale has nothing to do with our confidence in the brand, love of the franchisees, love of the model. It was strictly to do with, hey, we've built something that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
And something could go wrong. They could erase all of our hard work that we've done for the last decade.
Hmm.
Why don't we take some chips off the table? And so I actually was the first, I've been told, the first, and Chad, my co-founder, we were the first people that were let into the Neighborly cap table that were not employees. So
Wow.
I asked to roll as much as they would let me of the
Hmm.
sale of five-star painting into Neighborly. And by doing that, de-risked all the risk that was building up in one concentrated business.
Sure.
I now span it across all the Neighborly brands.
Hmm.
And it was the best move I've made in my career. Neighborly went on to, multi-billion-dollar valuations. I was allowed to participate in that from 2015 to 2018 when they had their first exit, and then to 2021 when they had their second exit. And it was, it also put my mind to the fact that I wanted to build something like Neighborly.
Sure.
So with a little more capital and a little more knowledge and experience, we got to work. And when we sold Five Star Painting, we still owned Five Star Franchising. We still owned a brand called Bath Solutions. We still
Hmm.
owned Pronexus, and Pronexus continued to support Neighborly brands as a
Hmm.
call center, as well as lead gen and software. And so it was in 2021 in June that we formed a partnership with Princeton Equity Group.
Hmm.
And so Chad and I, with them, are now have been buying companies now for a couple of years. We took down 5 businesses to get to 7 brands in that period of time. We're actively looking today. I hope to announce a few more this year. And yeah, like I'll give you a quick peek into the business. Today we are about 16 times larger than we were just 2 years ago.
Wow.
So it's that 1,600% growth in 3 years. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That comes from acquisition as well as franchisees growing, right?
Sure.
The business today is, compared to what it was 2 years ago, it's not even close to the same thing.
Hmm.
Um, same, what we are doing is the same as we've always done in terms of how we build solid brands and how we grow them. But we're just doing it for more than one brand at a time. And there is a huge benefit that comes from just having a a shared resource model where you've got kind of aces in their places that are, highly specialized in marketing and finance, accounting and technology and so forth. And they're all brought to bear on each of these businesses in a fashion that can really grow them. And frankly, it's a lot more fun than grinding it out from
Sure.
2005, 2015. It was a grind. Uh,
Yeah.
this has been a lot more exciting, a lot more thrilling.
Well, and I think too, it's good to note that you've kind of earned the right to buy brands, and I say that in a way that's like I see sometimes people going out using outsourced fran dev, growing as fast as possible because they want to be at that top, buying brands. They see the excitement of the big money, the big, having lots of brands. And for me, that's kind of like skipping school almost. I'm like, you in order to make it to the top, you have to overcome obstacles along the way. You need to, see what it's like in the grind, understand, franchisee growth models, unit economics, in order for you to not only be able to have the, capital to do that and build correctly, but also make the right decisions, because not every brand is a great franchise. Not every great franchisor should be. So, in order to hit that, growth that you're seeing, you're making educated decisions, alongside with your team, to be able to hit that. It's not just because, you can go buy brands. You're making the you're taking the franchise process and, scaling it up, to the brand level. So what brands, for people who, might be interested, because we do have a lot of franchising candidates that listen, do you have now aside from, your painting concepts?
Well, I sold the painting concept, so I don't own that any longer.
All of
Five Star
it.
Painting.
Oh,
Yep, I
okay. Got
sold
it.
I sold Five Star Painting in 2015. But what we have today is Five Star Bath Solutions, is a
Hmm.
bathroom remodeling brand. It's growing uh, at a pace that is just unbelievable. Organically, between 60 and 70% a year. Not through franchise sales, it's because our franchisees are growing so fast.
Wow.
I've got franchisees doing 8, 9, 10, $11 million a year in just a couple locations. And so that brand leverages Pronexus heavily, which is our call center, our lead gen machine, as well as our software. We also have Bio One, which we purchased, and it's based out of Denver. It's a highly specialized restoration concept in that handles hoarding, biological cleanups,
Hmm.
suicides, and so forth. Really unique. Their motto is help first, business second, and it's because they truly do care a lot about the people they're taking care of. And what has been told to me, and I believe it, is that often when someone calls them, it's the worst day of their life. And then
Yeah.
knowing that, they help. They're very empathetic, and they're able to help people through some of those challenges. We have another brand called Gotcha Covered Blinds. It's based in
Hmm.
Denver as well, so we have an office in Denver for both those brands, and it's a window covering franchise concept. We're unique in that for people looking to buy a concept that has a fixed royalty, Gotcha Covered Blinds does not charge a percentage royalty. It's simply a flat rate based on how long you've been in business. And I mean, the effective royalty rate, if we look at what we collect in royalties compared to the total system-wide sales, is like 2% or something.
Yeah.
So very efficiently run. Then you've got Mosquito Shield, which has mosquito control.
Hmm.
And we've got about, all told, we have about 850, 900 franchises right now amongst all the brands. But Mosquito Shield has about 280 or 290. And great concept that just deals with mosquito control and mosquito abatement, based out of just south of Boston, Massachusetts. And we've got a brand called 1-800 Packouts, another specialty restoration concept. It deals with contents. So when there's a fire or a flood, they don't
Wow.
fix anything. They just pack up your contents, store it while the place is being fixed. And then our other brand, 1-800 Textiles, cleans those contents if there are textiles, and
Sure.
then all those go back into the home after it's been restored. So it's 3 specialty restoration, 3 business to consumer type brands: blinds, mosquito, and bathrooms. And then Pronexus is kind of like this engine that drives home service brands.
Hmm.
We actually supply about 45 brands. So many brands we don't own use it to do their customer experience, all from making the phone ring once the phone does ring, scheduling it, and tracking that effectively through technology to help franchisees know what's working, what's not working.
So I assume that Pronexus uses, or most of your brands use Pronexus, if not all of them. Do you mandate them, or is it like a preferred vendor situation? Because we saw a similar thing with Horsepower, where they own a lot of their vendors,
Yeah.
but in order to keep the peace, it's not necessarily mandated. So do you guys see that as well?
Yeah, we actually support horsepower brands with Pronexus. Their largest brand, Mighty Dog Roofing, uses
Yeah,
Pronexus. Uh,
awesome.
I I don't. I think they have stood up their own call center as best I can tell at this point. I know we still support a number of franchisees that just love using us.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, to answer your question, I don't think it's mandated on any of the brands. No, I shouldn't say that. Mosquito Shield is mandated because they had a mandated program before we purchased the company.
Sure.
So we stepped in and took over the call center, but it's still mandated.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Bass Solutions is and Got You Covered are both a preferred supplier situation.
Mm-hmm.
But at Bass Solutions, 100% of the franchisees use Pronexus because it's so effective for them.
Right.
They don't have to, but
Yeah.
they are using it. And then at Got You Covered, I want to say 30 to 50% of the franchisees use us. In fact, Got You Covered was a customer of ours at Pronexus. And so that's how we get to know them. We love the brand, went to other conventions, and when the timing was right, we did a deal with them.
See, and for our, maybe smaller brands or people dealing with vendor issues now, it's so great to hear you say this because I think a lot of the time there is a control factor with franchisors where they want to mandate a supplier, or maybe they've signed a deal to get, the, a kickback or what have you. But even, coming from someone like Scott, who technically has skin in the game with a vendor, he's not mandating it per se just because, it's going to, up the cash levels. It truly is about what's going to be best for the franchisees. Now, obviously, they have, a big hand in making sure that those services do well for your brands. But at the same time, every franchise, every location is different. So, making sure that people have the tools they need to succeed without necessarily, grinding it in is a great way to be a flexible franchisor without losing control of your brand, and also not being, that helicopter parent, if you'd say. So you've got all these true restoration brands, and you're growing unit economics, you're growing on the franchise development side, you're looking for new brands. What's the ultimate goal here? Do you want to stay in home services? Do you think you'll expand to other services? Is it just, are we taking over the board here? What's your goal, man? I gotta know. I own competing brands, so I gotta know what I'm up against.
You know what? I'll say this. I know most of the CEOs of platforms I'm competing with. I
Hmm.
support some of them with Pronexus currently.
Yeah.
I have a very good relationship with almost all of them,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of respect for all of them. I look at this as a little bit different. Like, we're elevating an industry that needed to be elevated. When I started in this business 19 years ago, I feel like so old now. Look at those gray hair. This is for every franchise I've ever sold. Um, so there's homeowners were having, I would say, a horrible experience most of the time, right? They can't get a hold of anybody when they want to get services done. People don't show up on time.
Hmm.
They don't stand behind their work. They don't warranty anything. And contractors had a bad rap, a horrible reputation. And in the last 19 years, I'd say that's changed. And I'd like to believe that we were part of that change in some way, some small way, in terms of elevating the entire industry and taking care of the customer, putting them at the forefront of the entire experience. And so my goal is to build a platform. First of all, it's only home services. That's the only industry I'll ever operate in. I don't have any intention of buying a brand that's not a home service brand. And that is very clear. It's in our mission statement. It's very clear in what we're trying to do in our vision. That said, uh, the goal is really to build a platform that can deliver a customer experience across multiple home service brands that is the best out there. It is the 5-star experience. We call it a 5-star promise. It's to deliver to homeowners an experience that exceeds their expectation every time. And that's not easy. It's a very tall order. You've got hundreds and hundreds of franchisees, thousands and thousands of employees running all these different services, and to have them all believe in the 5-star promise is a tall, tall order. But if we get there, and when we get there, we unlock a lot of value for everybody in the entire chain, right? From the homeowner who just wanted to have their house bathroom replaced, to the franchisee who's doing it, to us who are the franchisor. Everyone in the entire food chain will unlock a lot of value, and so that's really the vision. We'll be $1 billion company in the next couple of years. That's clearly on our trajectory, and that means franchisees are growing aggressively. One thing we talk about often is something called double. Our goal is that franchisees double their business every 2 years. Even if you're a $3 million business, we expect you to double to $6 million in 2 years from now. Of our owners, about 40% of our owners are on track to do that. That is, for me, that gets me really excited. That is really impressive, that I can say almost 40% of our owners are doubling their business every 2 years. So those are like our goals revolve around franchisees ultimately having a successful business model. It revolves around the consumer who buys our services having a 5-star experience from our 5-star promise. And it's from my team that does all this that we take great joy and satisfaction in delivering at this level. It's incredibly rewarding. And so, there's realistically, there's probably 2 brands we'll buy this year. Next year, maybe another 2 or 3. Or we'll be 15 to 20 brands in the next 5 years. That's it. That's where we're headed.
Well, I love that. And first off, I want to say, thank you for calling to attention, that 5-star experience, because I coach a lot of brands and talking to them about it's not good enough to just be good. Now with the access to, every service under the sun, and customers expect 5-star as a baseline. So to have beyond is what keeps them coming back, and to have that as part of your mission and really coaching franchisees, coaching your internal staff to that quality is really what's going to, not only boost your loyalty and your retention, but it's going to draw a lot of positive attention in the industry itself, which is really great. And then, my last question, because we're coming up on time, I have done a podcast, if people are listening, with Danessa from BioOne, Michael from Mosquito Shields, a dear friend of mine. And these people that work, for you, with your brands, with the customers and franchisees, you can just see that they elude passion. They care about what they do. They want to grow. And my question to you as a leader is, a lot of times, especially in home services, we coach, lifestyle. This is, not QSR. You get free nights and weekends most of the time. You have a lot of flexibility, especially as a franchise owner, to be your own boss, to set your own schedule. But with so much going on in your brands, 40% of your franchisees doubling their business every 2 years, how do you lead your internal team so that they don't feel overworked, outstripped on their support, and just burnt out? Because I was on the other end of that. I think at one point I was doing Fran Dev by myself for 12 brands. And that's just, it's not feasible. It's not scalable. So with all this growth, what's your advice to make sure that you don't kill your team while, making other dreams come true?
You know what? Work can be pleasure. It can be enjoyable. Work becomes work when there isn't vision and a cohesion around a purpose. Hard work is highly rewarding. And I'm sure every human being who listens to this podcast knows what it feels like to have worked hard in a day and have gone home and felt the joy of hard work. And I know there's some people who have also felt like they didn't put in a good day and they came home and they didn't feel great. And I don't demand or place demands on my team members that they don't sign up for.
Right.
We use a system called EOS to run our business. It allows us to focus on what we call rocks every quarter. It answers the question, what is the most important thing that must be done? Everyone is in agreement as to what those things are. People volunteer to get those things completed. We have full transparency and accountability. It's part of our culture around what's being done and how we're tracking. We talk about these things weekly. Our meetings that we hold to keep us on track are rated at the end to find out if we actually had a meeting that was successful. Are we a 9 or 10 out of 10 meeting? Are we a 5 or 6 out of 10? Are we on time, every time? Are we operating in a fashion that we can take pride in our work? And I can tell you that, I mean, there's no question there's people, including myself, that work an 80-hour work week once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't. We work a 30-hour week. That's just, you put the time that's necessary. But I'm not doing anything in particular to like make sure that people aren't working too hard or enough.
Mm-hmm.
I trust them. I hire really talented people. I make sure that they have the resources they need to accomplish the vision and the goals that they have for the business. I check in with them regularly to make sure that in fact it's happening. Every Monday I have a stand up with each of my executives and I ask the question, are you stuck on anything?
Mm.
And if you are, my job as a servant leader is to help you get unstuck. Is it a resource issue? Is it a know-how issue? Is it a time issue? And we spend time making sure that those things are flowing and getting completed. And I can tell you, you are correct. You just mentioned Michael and Vanessa, incredible people, both of them. Every brand president I am so excited about in terms of what they're doing with their brands. Our executive team that runs the entire platform, these are amazing men and women that are highly, highly capable. And I play a lot of soccer and sport. I play a lot of sports in general. I'm a sports guy, but I love soccer. It's usually a team of 8, 9 v9,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just share this experience with you in closing. And I'm sure some people can relate to this. I'm 48 years old, and my business partner is 48. We're 5 days apart, and Chad's a much better soccer player than I am. But we're both old farts. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
like we are old beat up men. And I play with one of my coworkers, who's the head of Pronexus. He's a brand president there. His name's Ben Fox. I think he's 38 or 37. Spring chicken. And the three of us play on a co-ed soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, a team of 11 gut people. And we played in this tournament, and we won the whole thing. And the second to last game, we had no subs. And then we lost one of our top players to an injury. So we limped into the last final game, and we were one player short. So we were down a person.
Mm-hmm.
And the people we were playing against in the second last game were all high school athletes who played on a high school team. And they were all high school. These are people who can outrun us, who are way more physical, way better at the game. Then we walked into the final, and it was a Hispanic team, and they were incredibly talented. I think they're born people who are Hispanic tend to be born with soccer skills. Like they come out of the womb and they can juggle and do all kinds of things. And these guys and women were so talented, and we beat them 9-8 in the final. And the semifinal we won, I think it was like 9-4.
Wow.
Okay, why? Why do we win? Well, why do you win in business? Right? It's not you. If you have this special kind of magic that happens when your coworkers you're working with, you know where they're going to be before you put the ball there. Okay, you have this like mental sync that is occurring. You have a core purpose you all understand, and you're all heading towards that goal, and you're highly driven. And despite the fact that we're old and we can't keep up with these people, we still win. And that is business. I have a group of people, there's 9 of us in our executive team. There are 7 brand presidents who I can tell you are in sync with our vision and purpose and are pushing hard, and they are taking great joy and satisfaction in hard work. And we're winning because of it. And it's so enjoyable. When you're in that flow state where everything just kind of happens the way it should happen, it's an incredible experience. So that's what I would tell you is to why is it working? I think that's it.
Well, Scott, what a better way to end? We've got the Women's World Cup on, and I'm just thinking, team, and I come from a basketball background. I did play soccer. I always felt it was unfair to my hands that my feet had to do the running and the juggling, so I went basketball. But it couldn't be more true, and to have a team of individuals that are all in, as we like to say, is really what makes the magic, especially when you start adding in community, employees, franchisees, and beyond. So thank you again, Scott, for coming on. And we look forward to watching you and Five Star Franchising grow throughout, I want to say, the next couple of years, but really it's just going to be forever.
Let's just keep going all the way. Yeah. Thank you, Madeleine.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Franchise Marketing. This show is brought to you by NetCertive. We help franchise brands and multi-location businesses run localized digital marketing at scale. To learn more, visit netcertive.com.